Hey everybody, welcome back. Lots of you have asked me, who exactly is the group talking to aliens using quantum tunneling communication, messaging alien life? For the last 3 years, I have reluctantly, but I understand why, to keep this group secret. I know who they are through my contact. And the reason that they wanted to remain secret is that they are Russian. There you go. And their telescope is very compromised. It's in the Crimea, and they have been under threat from the Ukrainian conflict that their research and talking to aliens might well stop. Unfortunately, you might have read in the press that their telescope, the RT-70 steerable dish in Crimea, has now been taken out by the Ukrainian forces because it was also being used to supplement the accuracy of the Russian Glasnost satellite system. Glasnost is like GPS, and Ukrainians thought that if you take out this and other parts of this facility, it's a large radio facility in Crimea, that the accuracy of Russian missiles would be reduced. So it was a genuine military target. Also, it was being used for science research, which is unfortunate. And this group, who were using the quantum tunneling device for first listening and then speaking back to non-human intelligence using the Gunter Nimitz quantum tunneling technique, they've lost their ability to use their instrument. The RT-70 type steerable dish, 3 were built by Russia in the last 40 years. They're extremely big, extremely expensive, and they've done some amazing work. It was it's mainly used as a radar rather than a radio telescope. And the RT-70 type dish was the very dish that managed to bounce radar signals off the surface of Venus, piercing through Venus's cloud cover and actually for the first time mapping the surface of Venus. The United States did it with satellites later, but Russia with the RT-70 system have mapped the geography of planets in our solar system. So it's very well known. So has communication with aliens using the quantum tunneling device strapped to this RT-70 stopped? Well, sadly, it has stopped in Crimea. Here's footage of it being destroyed by Ukrainian drones.
On the night of August 31, cover of darkness in occupied Crimea, the stillness of the peninsula was shattered by thunderous explosions. A massive target, once a symbol of scientific ambition, had become a focal point in the modern space warfare theater. The RT-70 radio telescope, also known as P-2500, located in Yevpatoria. This was no ordinary strike, but a meticulously calculated assault aimed at the heart of Russia's GLONASS satellite navigation system, the lifeblood of its military operations.
You can see here that the drones targeted a number of dishes, some probably very military, and also the big steerable RT-70 dish. Whether the RT-70 dish was actually a military device, I've no idea. According to things that I've read, it was, and it was used to improve accuracy of the Russian Glasnost navigation satellite system. So you can understand why it was target, and possibly that's why I was restricted in telling you here on YouTube, which of course is an international channel, about this use of the RT-70 in Crimea to contact aliens using the quantum tunneling device. Has it all ended? No. Obviously, Russia has 2 other RT-70s. I don't know if the project has moved to one of theirs. I hear, and I have to keep this very secret, that the project hopes to continue and might well continue somewhere else. That's all I can say. So let's really talk about what they did and the choices they made. So this is an enormous debate. SETI, searching for extraterrestrials, or METI, messaging extraterrestrials. I think this is worth talking about. I recently did an interview, here it is, link in the description, talking to this host about the difference between SETI and METI. You might, at the end of this, like to go and watch his interview with me. Now, I would also like to talk to somebody who works in the SETI-METI field, and I've reached out to Sir Martin Rees, ex-Royal Astronomer of Britain, through his Cambridge University email address, and Martin's not replied. So if Martin, hi, or somebody who knows Martin, if he can get in touch with me, I'd like to talk about the debate between SETI and METI. So what's my thoughts on it? Well, the METI argument is that SETI have found nothing. It's like they were fishing with a hook with no bait on it. So they're casting their fishing line out into the sea of space and nothing got caught, and they reel it in, there's no evidence, there's no fish. Whereas METI have put a worm on the hook to push it out into space, and maybe that will attract more of an answer. That's the METI argument. The other argument, of course, which is very valid, is do we actually want to tell aliens about our existence here on planet Earth? Might they see us as an ant colony which they will come and disinfect because we are now annoying? Yeah, possibly. Is it foolish to actually attract the attention of aliens? Certainly Stephen Hawking and a number of people have said the last thing we want to do is to directly contact aliens in case they came here and they're going to be technologically more advanced than us, and they might see us as just a parasitic annoyance and destroy all life on Earth. Yeah, it's possible, but they also might be intrigued that we have emerged as in our technological infancy as we are, and they might come and share their technology with us. Who knows? I think that's a very pessimistic and possibly an optimistic way of having a first contact with aliens, if they ever came here. I think there's another pro-METI argument, which I think is very important, is that in fact sending messages out to space, putting a worm on the hook to attract them, has already been done anyway. We transmit radio, television, radar, very high-powered radar. We have satellites, we have Voyager, we launch rockets all the time. Earth is buzzing with electromagnetic frequencies. Any serious alien who pointed any kind of instrument towards our solar system, towards our star, the sun, would pick up Earth as a technologically active planet. So I don't think necessarily saying, hi, we're here, changes anything. I think that we've already done that by accident. People say the I Love Lucy show, is probably the first thing that people are going to see of life on Earth, which is a bit funny, especially as Lucille Ball went on to fund Star Trek when the Star Trek, the first generation, got into trouble financially and wanted to carry on a second series. She volunteered that they could use her Desilu studio, and she very much supported the idea of Star Trek and Gene Roddenberry back in 1965. So thanks, Lucille. And of course, the irony is that she might be, in her black and white TV broadcast from the 1950s, be one of the first thing that an alien technological race might pick up of TV pictures of us, and what they'll learn from the I Love Lucy show is quite interesting, isn't it? I think it's great. So that's the news. I know a number of you have doubted me about the validity of this project. And I think I would like to just spend a few seconds talking about that. I think I am old. I have come up from a broadcast TV background. I think I'm rather dogmatic and give you lectures rather than prove to you and let you make your own mind up. I think that's just a failing of my kind of generation. I'm now in my 60s. I've worked for National Geographic, Discovery Channel, PBS, and the BBC all my life. And those kind of programs did excellent research. I've never brought you anything which isn't true, but I think they tended to, this is the facts, to the viewers, rather than a more modern young person's approach to actually prove to you and show you things, and then you walk away from the podcast or a YouTube film going, oh, I think he proved the point by showing me something. I tend to be of the generation that tell you things in a rather lectury way. So I apologize for that, but that's just who I am. And I've tried very hard to stop doing that, and a number of people very kindly give me feedback via my Patreon account, which anybody can join, to watch my content for free without adverts and early access, and to talk to me directly. And a number of people on my Patreon account have said to me, Simon, you should say maybe and possibly and I think a bit more. And I tend to say, this is the fact. And I think I apologize to you viewers if I've done that a bit too much. But I do research the stories before I sit in my basement here in France and tell you about stuff a lot. I spend days researching stories. I speak to other people. I don't bring you crap. I definitely am prepared to bring you breaking news. I don't only read out stuff in peer-reviewed magazines like some other TV YouTube channels do, only going for the peer-reviewed obvious stuff. I like to bring you emerging science, and some of that emerging science might be you might be skeptical about it, and it might be wrong, but it doesn't mean that they haven't done the research, and I'm more than prepared to share those stories with you. But I don't go down the route of talking complete bollocks about Three Eye Atlas. I mean, Three Eye Atlas, for example, is an extraterrestrial visitor made of very different stuff that behaves badly in our solar system. It's not an alien spaceship. And I'm not going to say on my channel it's an alien spaceship, because it's not. It never has been. You might believe it is, but the evidence is that it's a very, very interesting visitor from made of stuff which behaves differently. So its characteristics that it displayed clearly are odd, are different from a comet. It's not a comet. It's an extraterrestrial rock of some strange nature that has behaved, outgassed, made jets, orbited very differently from the space rocks we have in our solar system. That's what made it unique. It's not unique because it's an alien spacecraft. And, that's the kind of things that I am very strong in being strict on this channel. I'm just not going to come out with complete shite for you for clickbait. I'm actually going to check stories. So there's another story which is emerging, which you need to know about. You'll know that yesterday I worked with Richard Thompson with his 45th anniversary film on With the Witnesses of Rendlesham Forest. And please go and watch it. It's a majorly important film. It's also free. You don't have to buy it on Amazon or go to a limited cinema release. It's actually free to watch. There's a link in the description. It's called, The Witnesses of Rendlesham Forest, and it includes witnesses which I'd never heard before. And one of the witnesses tells me a story which I am going to break today for you here on my humble channel. And that is, you will remember I interviewed Laurie Reinfeldt, who was in the US Air Force and left the Bentwaters Woodbridge area before the famous December dates of the Rendlesham Forest incident, but she clearly thinks she saw a Mantis type cryptoid creature while on guard duty in Rendlesham Forest. And I find that horrible, surprising, but I've just heard from 2 other people who've seen the same creature. They are not yet ready, and we're discussing how they want to release the information, but they want their story to be out there. So I'm just, before you hear from them directly, which will hopefully build up the credibility of what they're saying, I am just going to tell you what happened. So this isn't back in the 1980s. This is today. So Bentwaters is now a business park. I hear that the Sizewell C nuclear reactor team are based at the Bentwaters site. I mean, there's hangars and office buildings. There was a whole bunch of infrastructure when it was an Air Force base, and that's now been redeployed. And these 2 gentlemen work for a British defence contractor and are based at Bentwaters, just using the site to do modern defence jobs. And the site still has infrastructure such as roads and buildings and old barracks and streetlights. And one night, one of these gentlemen was driving home from work, I assume, late at night, and down this Bentwaters Road with a number of streetlights and a paved road. And he said every time he drove past this one streetlight, when he approached it, all the lights were on, he could see this light was on, but when he approached it, the light used to go off when he went past it, and then when he drove beyond it, it would come back on again, as if somehow there was some sensor in the road, or it knew about him or the car he was driving. And he found it like a bit odd that this light would blink off and then go past it and it would blink on again. And it did this supposedly a number of times. And he just kind of filed it in the back of his head. But this one night, it all went horribly wrong. He was driving down the road, he saw the street light blink off, and he drove past it. And what he normally did was look in his rearview mirror to check that it comes back on again. But when he looked in his rearview mirror, there, crossing the road, was a cryptoid mantis. He said it was 6-7 foot high. It had a proboscis face. It had arms out with pincers, and he describes the legs underneath looking like shrimp legs. Maybe there was multiple legs, and they were moving very fast as if it was swimming, and it was hovering above the road, and it crossed the road from the darkness of the left-hand side, crossed the road, and then disappeared into the darkness on the right. And I mean, like, what did he just see? So he stopped the car, quite scared actually, but walked back to see if he could see the creature in the darkness. And the most distinctive thing he remembered was an acrid odor of where he had seen the creature crossing the road. It was a weird smell. And a number of other people have noticed weird smells in Rendlesham Forest and around the Bentwaters Woodbridge bases, as if there is some evidence of some odor associated with these creatures that inhabit Suffolk. And then he really got a bit scared, got back into his car and drove to his friend's house, knocked on the door at 1 o'clock in the morning. His friend invited him in, and I've got an interview with his friend who recalls opening the door and seeing the expression of this man's face who had just seen the mantis creature, and said no, he was genuinely shaken, and he came in and described it. But the strange thing is that the friend had never told the guy who'd just seen the mantis that years ago he'd also seen a cryptoid creature while driving not in Bentwaters but in the forest, in Rendlesham Forest, with a group of UFO spotters in a club from Ipswich. He was out of his car and the group started shouting, "Behind your car, behind your car!" And he looked and there was a creature behind the trunk of his car, and it scuttled off into the forest. And so he also saw what he described as a creature not from Earth, a demonic, weird, alien type cryptoid creature that he saw. And soon it wasn't necessarily mantis shaped. He thought it was small and scurrying. And the smell was also there. So that's a very interesting story. So what's going on? Well, I think there's two things going on. And I think that Rendlesham area, Suffolk, has a thin veil. And these creatures are not aliens who have come to planet Earth in a spaceship, but these are creatures that live here. Non-human creatures that share our existence. And for some reason, Suffolk is thin, and occasionally they pop into our existence in a way that we can visually see them or smell them and perceive them. And I think the real question is, and this is a big question, did the US Air Force or other controlling authorities, the NSA, the DOE, some legacy UFO project, know that Suffolk was a special area? Did they specifically build Orford Ness, Bawdsey and Martlesham, I think is a big clue, around the strange things that they knew happened in the Woodbridge, Capel Green, Butley, Rendlesham area to exploit this weakness? Or was it just a coincidence? Well, the more I hear about Martlesham Heath, so Martlesham Heath pretends to be a British Telecom research laboratory. And there's a really big, obvious question about Martlesham and the industrial park that I think is worth asking. So Suffolk is a long way from any centre of population. The kind of people that you would need to work at a British Telecom research station will probably come from a big city like London or Manchester or Scotland and would have to relocate to rural Suffolk. Why would a research laboratory build the facility next door to Rendlesham Forest and then attract people to come and work there? I think it's strange. I think that it's possible that the laboratory was built there for the same reason that Orford Ness, Woodbridge, very specifically, Rendlesham, Bawdsey were in Suffolk, that people have known about Suffolk as a strange place, that these cryptoid creatures, this thin veil, can be manipulated. Did Cobra Mist manipulate it? I was told by somebody who absolutely is very senior that I had to trace a line from the rear of Cobra Mist. Where does it go? And the rear of Cobra Mist lines up exactly with 270 Woodbridge runway. And that runway goes right through Capel Green, goes right through where they saw the UFO in the Rendlesham Forest incident. It goes right through Sutton Hoo to Martlesham Heath Industrial Park. there's a line of strangeness, and there are laboratories and military facilities, an airport, Woodbridge, on that line. Again, somebody said, why did one of the most famous kings of England be buried at Sutton Hoo in a ship to transport him to the afterlife right next door to Rendlesham Forest? Have humans over the centuries known that this is a special place? Deputy Base Commander Charles Hall says that the head of British witchcraft was at Butley. I can't really confirm that, but there was definitely a coven. People have seen ritualistic demonic worship in ceremonies being carried out in Rendlesham. There's something going on in the area. And I think that's very different to aliens living on a different planet. I think NHI, non-human intelligence, shares our planet with us. I think it always has. I think we live alongside these cryptoid creatures that occasionally pop into our perception as UAP, as creatures occasionally, as we've seen at Skinwalker Ranch and other places around the planet. And I think that's very different from searching for life in our galaxy. I mean, I think that life on the galaxy is more likely going to be some kind of simple organic life. I'm amazed that you and humanity haven't changed their whole attitude since the Cambridge team have announced that they found a biosignature on an exoplanet. That's major news. That's life, Jim, not as we know it, on another planet. We are no longer alone in the universe. I think the Mars rovers have pretty well confirmed fossilized biological samples on Mars. Again, life is persistent. It's going to be out there. But I think we also share our planet here, right now, with an intelligence, creatures, angels, demons, aliens, whatever you want to call them. They do exist, and there are places like Rendlesham and Suffolk and Skinwalker and lots of other places around the world, in Mexico, in the Far East, in Lourdes in France, where people see things, where this non-human intelligence that shares our planet pops into existence. So that's the state of the world. That was quite a big talk by me, and I'm sorry to be so didactic and tell you things rather than prove it to you, but I think I would very much like to prove to you that the RT-70 telescope in Crimea was the place that the quantum tunneling device was fitted to a dish by a group called METI. Thanks for watching my channel. Happy New Year. There's going to be big stuff happening in 2026. I just feel it in my bones. I'll bring you anything that I know as it breaks. Stay tuned. Help the algorithm by clicking like or whatever. YouTube seems to be completely out of control right now with its weird AI content. I'm just hating it. I'm real. Although I am old, I do know roughly what I'm talking about. I try to bring you stories which are interesting. So please subscribe, stay tuned, become a Patreon, give this film a like, do whatever you can to keep social media science actually active, because the truth needs to be out there.